Hello everyone, my name is Srishti Chauhan and I am a computer science and engineering student from IIT Guwahati, and I am doing this presentation on file management and in iOS as part of my CS343 operating systems course. So let's begin. An operating system consists of various different modules that are responsible for different functions that are executed by the OS. The file management system is one such module. It consists of functions and data structures that the system uses to keep track of the files and the directories. Its most important function is to manage and organize the user data. File management system provides the user with an interactive interface for complicated storage backend. It is responsible for reading, writing, and updating the user's files regardless of where in the physical media they are located. So these are the few things that we would be looking at in today's presentation: the sandbox, common app directories in iOS apps, key features of APFS, the role of coordinators and presenters in iOS, iCloud file management, and lastly, we briefly talk about security in APFS. So let's start. The iOS file system is geared towards apps running on their own. To keep the file system simple, the users of iOS devices do not have direct access to the file system, and apps are supposed to follow this convention. For security purposes, an iOS app's interactions with the file system are limited to the directories inside the app sandbox. During installation of a new app, the installer creates a number of container directories for the app inside the sandbox. These container directories constitute the app's primary view of the file system. An app is generally prohibited from accessing or creating any files outside its container directories, except it uses public system interfaces to access things such as the user's contacts or music. Now, these are the commonly used directories in any iOS app. These are the directories that are created inside the app sandbox when it is installed on an iOS device. Let's look at each of these directories one by one. So appname.app. This is the app's bundle. This directory contains the apps and all of its resources. We cannot write to this directory. Writing to this directory will change the signature and prevent our app from launching. Documents. The app uses this directory to store user-generated content. The contents of this directory can be made available to the user through file sharing. Therefore, this directory should only contain the files that you may wish to expose to the user. Next is document/inbox. We use this directory to access files that our app was asked to open by outside entities. For example, the mail program places email attachments of our app in this directory. Our app can read and delete files in this directory but cannot create new files or write to existing files. Library. This is the top level directory for any files that are not user data files. We typically put files in one of the several standard subdirectories in library. iOS apps commonly use application support and caches subdirectories. Lastly, the temp directory. We use this directory to write temporary files that do not need to persist between the launches of our app. The app should remove files from this directory when they are no longer needed. Now, which file system does iOS use? So iOS uses the Apple file system, which is better known as APFS. In the further slides, we will be looking at what APFS does and what are its salient features. So the salient features of APFS are space sharing, cloning, snapshots, and atomic safe save for document bundles. We now take a look at each of these features one by one. Space sharing. APFS formatted volumes can grow and shrink inside of a container. So when we partition a disk, typically we have pre-allocated volumes that are not dynamic. They are rigid. The disk is partitioned into volumes that have fixed amount of spaces for the user's data. But with APFS, these volumes are very flexible. This is because when we partition a disk, we just don't make a volume. We make a container, and there is volumes inside of the container that can grow and shrink. To explain space sharing, let us take an example. Let us say we have a volume 0 that is present inside the SSD. This volume continues to grow and becomes bigger. We now have another volume that we need to organize our files better and organize our files in an efficient manner. Again, it occupies the free space that is present. But now we change our minds and we need some more space to allocate to volume 0. So it's not a problem because there is no pre-allocated space present inside the SSD. So volume 0 can easily occupy the free space that is present. So this was space sharing. Next we have cloning or copy on write clones. So cloning, Apple took an age-old technology, copy on write, and is using it in a rather new way. Cow is an optimization strategy that basically creates copies of files when changes needed to be made. The user sees two copies, but they are essentially pointing to the same physical location up till the point that changes need to be made to either of the files. The changes are then stored into a new location called as delta. Now, how is Apple using copy on write? We explain this better using an illustration. Now consider two files. Consider a file file.txt and another file that is a copy of file.txt, but both of them are present in different directories. But as we can see, due to the presence of cloning, both of these point to the same physical location. Now changes have to be made to file.txt. So these changes are stored in a separate location called the delta file. An extension of the copy on write technology is another feature of APFS, that is snapshots. So let's take a look at what snapshots do. Say we have a file.txt that occupies 2 blocks of data and we have a pic.jpg that occupies 1 block of data. So in total we have 3 blocks of data. So now we take a snapshot with the time machine which is built in backup solution in the OS. The snapshot now has 3 blocks of data saved in read-only format, separate from the changes that are being made. So this is the snapshot that we took. Now the changes are now made to file.txt and are written out as a delta file in the free space. The snapshot is still totally preserved, and if something goes wrong, we can easily roll back to the snapshot at any time. It's all stored on the same drive, so even if we accidentally delete a file, it is reserved as backup in case of an emergency. We can easily see this using this illustration. The snapshot is in green color and we can roll back to the snapshot in case we face an emergency. Next is the atomic save for atomic bundles. In atomic save, regular files are saved into a temporary directory during a save. This technology applies to renaming or moving a file. It is similar to the idea of copy on write but applies to any file operation such as renaming or moving any file or directory. I will explain this too with an illustration. For example, we have a file called the office.txt on which we are working and we perform a save. Then the data is actually stored inside a temporary folder, and after the system ensures that everything is good, the old file is removed and the new file is renamed in an atomic operation, that is instantaneously. The atomic guarantee here is that the operation either completes or is not done at all. So this temporary directory is saved onto the permanent directory only after the system makes sure that there are no inconsistencies in the file. So where is the issue? Let's look at where the issue comes in atomic save. The real issue is with document bundles that pose as a single file but are folders in reality. The renaming of such files is difficult because these aren't empty subdirectories and are limited by POSIX. APFS overcomes this with a new system called renamex _np, where np stands for no POSIX. There are some more salient features of APFS such as encryption, sparse files, fast directory sizing, and HDD defragmenter, because of which APFS has increasing popularity around the globe. We now look at the role of presenters and coordinators in an APFS system. Because the file system is shared by all running processes, so problems can occur when two processes or threads try to act on the same file simultaneously. Two different processes acting on the same file might make changes that the other is not expecting, which could lead to crashes or data corruption. To avoid this contention, macOS includes support for file coordinators, which allows you to coordinate file access safely between different processes or threads. Its job is to notify the app whenever a file they care about is acted on by another process or thread. So what is a file presenter? Any object in our app that can be a file presenter and can monitor individual files or whole directories. An example of this would be an app that works with images would designate one or more objects as file presenters for the corresponding image files. If the user deletes an image file from the Finder while the app was still running, the file presenter for that image would be notified by the coordinator. We now take a look at iCloud file management. iCloud securely stores our photos, videos, documents, music, apps, and more. It keeps them updated across all our devices. We use the iCloud storage APIs to write user documents and data to a central location and access those items from all of the user's computers and iOS devices. Making a user's documents available everywhere using iCloud means that the user can view or edit those documents from any device without having to sync those files explicitly. Storing files in an iCloud account also provides a layer of additional security. Now, how does iCloud manage these files? All documents have to be created on a local disk initially and then moved to the user's account later. First, it is moved from its current location in the file system to a local system, which is a managed directory where it can be monitored by the iCloud service. Only then the file can be transferred to iCloud and to the other user devices. Now, while in iCloud storage, changes that are made on one device are stored locally and then pushed to an iCloud using a local daemon. To prevent large number of conflicting changes from occurring at the same time, the app will use file coordinator objects to perform all the changes. Now, we take a look at security in APFS, which is pretty much the last component in my presentation. So, APFS claims to be highly secure. In iOS and iPadOS, Apple uses a technology called data protection to protect data stored in flash storage on the device. Data protection allows the device to respond to common events such as incoming phone calls, but also enables a high level of encryption for user data. Key system apps such as messages, mail, contacts, photos use data protection by default, and third-party apps receive this protection automatically. How is the security implemented? It is implemented by constructing and managing a hierarchy of keys and builds on hardware encryption technologies that are built into iOS devices. What is the architecture? The storage is divided into two APFS volumes, the system volume. The system content is stored on the system volume and user data is stored on the data volume. Data volume, every time a file on the data volume is created, data protection creates a new key, a per file key, which is unique to the file and gives it to the hardware engine, which uses the key to encrypt the file as it is written to flash storage. So we come to the end of my presentation. Thank you all for being a patient audience.